You're welcome back to the program. You're still watching the Happier Morning Weekend Show. And of course, we're still talking Christmas, being festive on a budget and how we can make the most of Christmas without breaking the bank. We've just been joined by Umeadi Nnadi, who's a management accountant. Good morning, sir. How are you doing?
Good morning,
Good morning,
Good morning.
sir. Good morning. We're having a conversation and we're talking about when is the best time to start preparing for Christmas? When is the best time? Because, we use the example of people who do like a job for food stuff, they start to pay a certain amount of money, contribute so that in November or December, they can now get, their money's worth, buy their things early. Divine was saying her mom would buy like things in August, September and keep them. But when do you think is the best time to actually start preparing for Christmas, the festive season?
Okay, well, it's just like asking when is the best time for a pregnant woman to start preparing when she'll give birth. Of course, we all know it from the month 1, when she has to know that at 9th month, something wonderful is going to happen. Yes, so the best time to start preparing for Christmas, I would say, is from January. Okay, so I love the topic. We're talking about budgeting. So where you begin to set aside some certain amount of your income for, you can call it Christmas, whatever it is. So the best time is at the beginning of the year. You start budgeting for it. But I think one major challenge is because of the inflation that we find ourselves in Nigeria. So we are actually in a very peculiar situation. But to answer your question, the best time for a pregnant woman to start preparing for delivery is immediately she finds out she's pregnant. So the same way, the best time to start preparing for a very important occasion like Christmas is from the beginning of the year. So you start budgeting, setting aside some certain amount of your income towards that.
Okay. Now, I know that the fact that we talk about Christmas, we talk about holidays, Christmas especially, there seems to be a lot of attention channeled to it. Once it's December period, a lot starts to happen. There's pressure in the air. So I'm wondering, in what ways can people actually really successfully plan a decent celebration without getting into the pressure? While that we are going to celebrate something on Christmas Day, December, while we know that Christmas is holiday and we want to celebrate, is there a way that while we're planning that we still avoid, there's still that external pressure that comes to make money and to do this and to do that? How can one, balance both, plan properly and still not fall into the pressure of doing more than yourself?
I love what you're asking now. You see, one thing I teach personal finance. And one of the things I start is by saying, you are not in competition with anybody. So what happens most times is, you will see someone trying to compete with his neighbor or his cousin or her neighbor. You even see some ladies trying to compare their husbands with another person's own husband. Probably, for instance, if you are working, if you're a civil servant in Enugu and you happen to have a friend whose husband works with an oil company in Port Harcourt, I think it will be foolhardy for you to begin to compare and begin to think to have the same kind of Christmas or the same kind of budget that they have. Okay, but one thing is that you have to plan according to your means. That is the best way. You can have a very wonderful Christmas without breaking the bank. The most important thing is that you have things to eat and you are happy. So the best way to go about it, number one, you are not in competition with anybody. Don't compete with anybody. Plan in accordance to what you have. Number two, don't mind the societal, what people will say, because that is one of the major issues that we have about our personal finance. We have this societal pressure, pressure. We begin to look at what would they say. I love when you spoke about Kedifa. I mean, let them say. And one thing you have to know is that no matter what you do, they will talk. Right. So don't fall for the societal pressure of trying to impress anybody, trying to do for the society to say you are a very strong man. Just do in accordance to what you have.
Okay, so in addition to what she has asked, you've explained that we should not be in any competition with anybody, plan according to what you can afford. So what are steps or things we can put in place, consider in this planning? And if there is any free activities, because this season people will come together and want to have activities and all that. If there is any like free activities you think people can also engage in and be happy without spending so much, still in budget?
Well, I'm not an event planner, so I'll speak. Yes, but of course there are plenty of things people can do. But one thing I'll speak from my professional perspective. You have to plan. Budget is telling your money where to go instead of asking when. The truth is that human wants, they teach us in economics, is insatiable. And then planning helps you to do what we call scale of preference. Okay, so you also look at what is preference. Of course, if you're planning for Christmas, you sit down and look at options available. Of course, if you are in any city, if you are traveling to the village, you know what happens in your village. You can prioritize according to what you have and then put money in accordance to what you have. So, like I said, my advice would be, do it at scale of preference. You know what is more important. Of course, food is more important than whatever recreational activity you might want to engage in. Food in your family eating well is more important than hosting the entire community. So if after hosting the entire community and your children didn't eat for the rest of the Christmas, you have failed. And again, I always remember to add this. January is school fees.
Yes.
January is coming.
School fees, house rent.
And as you're planning for Christmas, remember January. Some people pay rent. Your children's school fees are more important or is more important than Christmas celebration.
Okay.
Wow.
Now that we've talked about it, now that we've mentioned January, there's this thing I've been curious about. It looks like there seem to be, do I say, an acceptable amount. First of all, we've seen the fact that a lot of people save from January just to spend in December. Right. You save and save and save millions just so that you can squander it all in December. And then January you start from beginning. So we've seen that. I want to know if there is an acceptable, since of course you're an accountant and you would be able to, guide us through the financial path of all these things. I've heard stuff like if your rent is more than your 3 month salary or more than your 2 month salary, then you're living above your means. I've heard stuff like that. So for things like celebration, for recreation, holidays, enjoyment, how much do you think, what ratio of your earnings do you think is accurate for those kind of things?
Okay, I love what you just said. Now, you see, like you rightly said, first, I'll advise people. When we talk about savings and budgeting, some people budget for Christmas, for celebration, but they didn't really budget for investment. So my advice would be, let it not be more than 10%.
Okay.
10% of your...
Let it not be more than 10% of your income. Okay. And my 10% may not be the same as Favor's 10%.
It's not even realistic.
So, yes, because...
So 10% of your yearly income.
Yeah, no, your monthly income.
Your monthly income.
Yeah,
okay.
Yearly income. No. So, but like I said, let it be like, when we talk about celebration, there are a lot of things that happen. So it's not just that we are going to burn those whole things. I know we cannot do without our communities. That is the time some people, that's the only time some people have to see some aunts, some uncles. In Africa, especially in Igbo land, we are raised by community.
Yeah.
Sometimes that is the only time people have to visit relatives. So why it is necessary? Because it is actually necessary that you do those things. If the means are there. Okay, that is what I mean. But if, like I said, your 10% may be too much, you may reduce it to 5 if you look at what works for you. But let it not be that much. Because what matters most, like what I let people know, some people can decide to burn maybe 100 million on Christmas. You have not even made 10 million in a year. So if you are looking at that person, I think you are not being wise if you are doing like that. So that is what I would advise, that let it not be more than 10%. Let it not be 10% max.
All right. I think we'll leave it at that. Let it not be more than 10%. I mean, that's very important. You have to know, okay, this is how to channel it, because we should, you're working for your money, you should enjoy.
Yeah, I
You understand?
Yeah.
So not you want your work. I also feel like sometimes it feels like a very vicious cycle if you're only working and you're not taking out time to, or taking out the fruit of your labor. I mean, they say next of kin, they used to smile. But you have to really just enjoy yourself. Thank you very much, Umeadi Nnadi, for taking our time to join us this morning. I mean, all of this wisdom, I'm sure. January is school fees, so January is rent. Very important.
And yes, exactly. I was going to say, please let me end on that note. Celebration is good. Enjoyment is good. Please enjoy your life. But remember, especially for those of us who have children, your children will not forgive you if you bought box of clothes for them on Christmas and you fail to pay their school fees.
So you have to have January in mind.
Yes,
Any
be
spending you're
balance.
doing now, check your budget, remove for January, because nobody's coming to help
And January is no long.
And that's like 51 days.
Oh my God. Let's not even go into that. Thank you so much, Sam, for joining us. Thank you so much. Of course, we had a conversation about being festive on the budget and making the most of Christmas without breaking the bank. We'll go on a very quick break. When we return, of course, more conversations on the weekend show.